Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to DevOps Thursdays. My name is Erika, and I am the program manager at MicrosoftReactors.com. Today, we are going to continue with the second episode of the Championing Azure Collection series DevOps track. The Championing Azure Collection series is aimed to provide the necessary skills in Azure and is perfect for those that are early in their developer career. The series focuses on 3 Azure functions: AI and machine learning, cloud native, and DevOps. Throughout our hands-on workshops, we introduce you to the basics of Azure and demonstrate what the platform is capable of. For the next 5 weeks, on Thursdays, we have beginner content in DevOps. Before I carry on, I would just like to say a quick word about the Microsoft Code of Conduct. Please be aware of each other and please be welcoming and respectful. We all come from different backgrounds, but we are all here to learn. Thank you. And now let's get to the point why we are all here today. Let me introduce to our speaker, Magnus Timner, whom you may have met last week at the first episode at the Introduction to DevOps session. For those that don't know Magnus yet, Magnus is the vice president and partner at a company called Solidify here in Stockholm, Sweden. He is a cloud and DevOps consultant, as well as a Microsoft Developer Technologies MVP. Today, I am very happy to welcome him back to this series, and he's going to introduce you to GitHub and Codespaces. We will introduce the basics of GitHub and demonstrate what the platform is capable of when it comes to code, issues, actions, secure development, and Codespaces. We will also talk about open and inner source culture. The session is going to run for about 40-45 minutes with some time at the end for questions. But I encourage you to ask your questions during the session. Now I think I've spoken enough, so let's bring you here. Magnus, hello. Welcome. Welcome back again.
Thank you, Erika. So
Hey.
Is it time for me to share my stuff?
It is indeed time. So yeah, I am going to be here in the background and listening. So if I'm needed, just give me a shout. But I think you're good to go.
Thank you, Erika.
But yes, just once again, thank you for being here again.
Yep, thanks for this very nice introduction. So last week I had a presentation about Azure DevOps, and today we're going to continue with talking about what GitHub and also what Codespaces is in. And Erika already gave a really nice introduction of who I am, but with me I have my colleague Mattias Olaisen, a co-worker at Solidify and also a Microsoft MVP, the same as me. And he's actually in the chat and he's ready to answer questions if they show up there. So go for it, Mattias. The agenda for today, I talked a little about what is DevOps last week, and I'm also going to talk about a little shorter, talk about what DevOps is. We're going to talk about the platform overview, what GitHub is. We're going to talk about developing in GitHub, what kind of automation we can do in GitHub, that's CI/CD and some other stuff. We're also going to talk about planning and collaboration and the possibility of extensibility and integrations. And then we're going to have a QA. But if you have any questions, just write them in the chat, and either Mattias will answer them directly, or we'll take them in the end, depending on how it looks. So, what is DevOps? And for those of you who were in the session last week, I showed the same slide, but I think this is a good one, describing what DevOps is. DevOps is the union of people, processes, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to your end users. And this is written by Donovan Brown at Microsoft. I think it's a really good text, and it describes what DevOps really is. It's not a role, it's not a part of the company, it's more of a culture, and it enables us to deliver stuff to our end users. We don't do anything for ourselves, we do it for our end users. And to the right here, we see a typical flow, develop a continuous delivery flow with DevOps. Like we start with to plan and track what we are going to do. We develop, we build and test, we deploy, and we operate, monitor and learn, and then we back to plan and tracking. So this is the continuous delivery life cycle. And we're going to show you how to do most of this with the help of GitHub. So this is an overview of what we have in GitHub. I mean, GitHub was originally a coding platform, and it was and still is great in the open source world. But last couple of years, many enterprises are starting to use it as well, and they have also expanded a lot in functionality. And if we start from the right, I mean, it's a home for all developers, home for the world's code. So lots of the biggest open source projects in the world exist on GitHub. And GitHub exists in two flavors. I mean, we can work with it in the cloud, like most people do, or if you have special needs, you can install it on your own server in your own data center or on-prem somewhere. And if you run the cloud version, it's elastic to any scale. It's fully managed by GitHub, and they're always releasing new features with new stuff all the time. It supports all operating systems for CI/CD. I mean, we can deploy to Linux, Windows, and Mac. You can also work with it from any operating system. It's the largest ecosystem in the world when it comes to extensions and code things people are using. And we go and don't check on the right side, we can deploy to anywhere. I mean, for starters, in your own data centers, you can deploy to Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, and a variety of other cloud providers as well. If we look in the middle, we see, just like we saw in the last picture, the DevOps lifecycle with planning, coding, building, testing, releasing, deploying, operating, and monitoring. So we're going to show you how to work with some of these things in GitHub in this session today. So the different topics I'm going to walk you through next is how we work with collaborative coding, how we do automation with CI/CD. I'm going to talk a little bit about security, working with client apps and product management, and a little bit about team administration and community. And some of these areas we're going to drill down to further in later sessions, like my colleague Matthias is actually going to talk about automation and CI/CD next week on the same time. And we also later on, probably sometime in March, going to talk a little bit about security. But let's get started. So developing in GitHub, I mean, you could work with GitHub in an open source project, sharing stuff with friends. You can have your own private project. You could be an enterprise or a company working with GitHub and having your source code there. So it's important when to contribute to a project quickly with automatic environment setup. You can do that. You can set up your version control system to being able to share code with lots of people, or you can set up policies to not only work within your own company. So you can set up policies, you can do code editing in different ways. We have different ways of working with code insights and also to do releases. And we also have codes or tools to discuss and collaborate. So let's start by jumping into GitHub and give you a brief overview. So for this demo, I created a small project here in our demo environment. I created a GitHub project called Reactor Demo, and it's actually public, so you could try the link and go in and take a look at it yourself. When we come into GitHub here at the first time, or not the first time, but what we see, we have a README here that describes a little bit what we're doing in the project, and that is simple markdown. And that's I just copied the text from today's event and posted it here. And we can easily edit stuff here directly from the interface if we want to. It's common markdown. And otherwise, we can see the source code. I just created a simple web application for the demo, and we can drill down into our code here and actually see what is in the code. And you can see we get different colors and stuff depending. I mean, it interprets the code, so it's easy to view. We also have a little bit of information about what is happening in the project. We can see what languages we have here, and if we had packages or releases, we can see them here as well. And what if I want to edit this code? Well, it's quite easy. I can edit in a local way. I can open it in something called GitHub Desktop, or I can open it with Visual Studio or any other tools of choice. I can work with HTTPS or SSH or various protocols. But the easiest thing actually to edit your code is just to press dot, and then I instantly get a lightweight web editor of Visual Studio Code. where I can actually work with my code. And yeah, we can do the same as I showed you this last week, and you can do the same with Azure DevOps. I think this is really cool. So you can work with, edit your code and work with Git here, and you can even work with some extensions. So that's a simple way to work with the code. And yeah, we can also work with something called Codespaces, but that's the next slide. So I'll be back to talk about that. We can also create branches, as you probably know or might not know it. If you're going to work in a DevOps way, you need to be able to work with parallel stuff. So we might have one team working with one branch and another team working with another, and the idea is for them to work simultaneously. And when we finish stuff, we can just merge it back to our master branch and continue working with the next feature we're working with. And I'm going to show you some good stuff to set up if you're going to work with parallel branches. So I'm going to jump into something called settings here and branches. And here I can set up branch protection rules. And I've done that in this project. So my branch is called main, my main branch. And I've set up a policy here that says require approvals. And this means if I have something in my branch, I need someone else to approve it before I can commit it to master. And this way we get a four eyes principle of the code. And someone, I mean, honestly, if I do some coding and I know that someone is watching my code, I write better code. So I think this is important. I mean, you know that someone else is going to watch your code and take a look at it and see if there are improvements needed. So that's why I activated this. There's lots of other stuff we can go into, but we won't be doing that today as this is a basic session. So we have activated branch protection rules here. If we go back to code here, I actually found something strange in what Erika wrote here. So she actually wrote that this 6-week series provides an introduction of Microsoft AE. So I think there's a copy paste mistake. So I've actually prepared something for this. I created a new branch, demo branch, where I actually fixed this. I changed AI to Microsoft and GitHub. So this is just really simple. It's not even a code sample, but a really simple way of showing you how to work with branching.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Erika. I didn't want to tell you in advance. I thought it would be a nice surprise. So when I commit to this, I create something called a pull request. And a pull request is something that someone else is going to watch what I have done here before I can commit it. So if I go into files changed here, I can see that exactly what I've changed. I changed Microsoft AI to Microsoft and GitHub. And while doing this pull request, I also activated some other stuff. So we can see that there's some checks that has been run. So what kind of checks? It's a build that has been run. So when I create a pull request, there is an automatic build being run in the background that verifies that this code is buildable. And that's really important. We can throw in other kinds of checks as well. So we know that the code that I'm merging to master has good quality. And we can also see that we have a required reviewer here. And as have created this myself, I actually can't merge it. So, but if I had a colleague like Matthias or someone else, I could assign it to him and he could have check this code and just merge it back to master. But otherwise, if you code, and you can code with your tool of choice here, I mean, you can just copy the Git link here and open it up in any tool you work with. I mean, Visual Studio Code, or a multitude of other tools as well. So that's a real quick overview of the coding part. So there's something else I want to show you, something called Codespaces, and that is really new actually. And you don't need Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code or anything Word installed on your machine. You can just open a Codespace in a browser in any platform. So you can use your iPad or even your phone, but that might be a little bit small. And you can open it there and you have a complete development on demand development environment. And I mean, if you have new users, I mean, all of those of you who have been working in the business for some time, if you come to a new company, it often takes some time to get up and running. But with Codespaces, you have an instant it goes really quick for you to get started, and it's a built-in debugger and runner and everything. And I think GitHub themselves uses this to work with GitHub, and I think they changed the time to clone or open a repository from 1 hour to about 1 minute or something. So let's take a brief look at that. And this is not accessible for everyone. I think it's only for enterprise users at the moment. So let's say I want to create a new code space. I click new code space and I can select what kind of machine I have. So let's go for something not wild and crazy, but a little bit more than the usual stuff. 8 cores, 16 gigabytes of RAM, and we create a code space. And this will actually look quite a lot like when I just pressed dot a few minutes ago. I can also open this up in my own Visual Studio Code as well. And here we actually have the same thing we saw when we opened it earlier with dot, but we can do a lot of more stuff. So of course we can edit it the same way we did before. And when this is finished, I'm going to show you. I will just do it dot at something here dot. So I can build and test and run everything for the terminal here, and I don't need to have anything installed on my machine. And if I want to, I can even debug it from here. I can launch the application from here. I won't be doing it now in this demo, but I can even share the debugging session with someone else, and we can, even though it's running on my machine, we can run stuff together. And there's even a live sharing thing here where we can do co-coding. So I think this is a really, really wonderful tool. And you can do exactly the same stuff as you can do on your own machine with Visual Studio Code, but as I said, in a totally virtual environment. And you can, if you have special needs in your environment, you can prepare those in the beginning, your special tools installed from the beginning as well. So this is something for you guys to look into more. That's a recommendation from us. So that was Codespaces. Next thing is automation. And when you think automation, you might think CI/CD. We need to build our stuff, continuous integration. We need to deploy our stuff with continuous delivery. But the automation tool in GitHub is actually much more. You can, with the automation workflow we have, you can automate actually anything. You can use, let's say we have a new colleague starting in the company, and the first thing he has to do is create I'm a new person in the company issue or something. We can use a special template, and when he creates this issue in the template, we can start integrating with other systems in the company. So we can have the new guy, we can order new stuff for him, maybe a new machine or something. We can add him to the other systems in the background and so on. So you can actually automate virtually any workflow with this automation tool. And it uses, if you want to, we can use GitHub hosted runners. They have runners that enable us to run on both Linux, Windows, and Mac. Or you can install your own private runners on your own machine, in your own infrastructure. It handles secrets as well, encrypted secrets. And you can also do end-to-end CI/CD, where we use workflows and actions, and we can create artifacts and packages, and we can promote or stuff to a container registry, and of course also deploy to the cloud. So let's take a look at how the automation looks. So when I create a workflow the first time, it creates, if it doesn't exist, a folder called .github workflows. And here I have a build or a workflow I created just for this demo the other day. And it's in YAML, and that means that the build definitions is stored with my code. I think that is really important, because if you branch the code to a new branch and you do changes in the stuff, you can still have the build definitions that reflects that branch. And yeah, it's code, so it should be stored with the code as well. And I've been working with the other CI/CD systems that are task-based, and the build system doesn't have anything to do with the code, and it's stored in a complete separate area. And the same way, I mean, we could work with infrastructure as code and store it in here as well. So as much as we can should be stored as code. So if we just take a brief look at what happens here, we have a name. It's called my first build. We have a push and pull request mechanism. So if we push something to the branch main, it will trigger a build automatically. If we do a pull request that goes to the main branch, it will trigger a build. And then we can see what it actually does. So for starters, it runs on a Ubuntu latest server. We can change that to Windows latest or Mac latest or a specific version if we want to. We continue with different steps here. We just run, use an action called checkout to get our code, and we do download the .NET stuff needed, and then we do a .NET restore and .NET build and .NET test. And this is actually done without any coding at all. And I can just continue working with this and add more stuff. So let's just go in and take a look here in actions, how it looks. Just create a new workflow for starters and see what we can select. So it actually analyzes our code and does a couple of suggestions. And I know this is a .NET application or .NET desktop. And we also actually created some templates of our own for our own development purposes, where we add some more stuff. But let's say I just select this .NET template here. And it actually added all the stuff that we already saw in the example I had. And here to the right, when we edit our workflow, we get a lot of different actions we could add. So let's say we want to do something with Azure. Say I want to do something with an Azure function container action. And I can just copy the code from here and paste it in here and work with it. So it's really easy to work with your builds and make them more and more advanced. So if I run my build, I can just open it here and take a look what is happening. And I can actually add environments here, so I can build first and then I can deploy to the dev environment, AC environment, the production environment, and I can have different kinds of gates in between, and different kinds of manual and automated approvals. And if I click on the build here, I can just go and see the different parts. So let's say I want to see the details on the .NET build here, what happened, what happened in the test part here. That's the actual logs that are being run. So I think this is really cool and useful. Next part is security. GitHub has some really cool features when it comes to security. And the first one I'm going to talk about is the dependency insight. None of you probably missed the log4j problem we had during Christmas all over the world. And when using the dependency scan, which is actually free in GitHub, it analyzes your code. And if you have a vulnerability in your code and you are responsible for that repository, it actually tells you that it finds vulnerabilities in your code, as shown here. And you can click on the dependable alerts and drill down and see what the problem is and read information about it. And it actually creates a pull request for you with a suggested fix for it. So I think this is fantastic. There are also two other parts of the security part. We have something called GitHub Advanced Security. That is not, I think it's free for open source projects, but not for private projects. And here we have a code scanning capability where we scan our code for security vulnerabilities and also for secrets. So if you have a bad path in your code, it will tell you that you have a bad path, and it can even revoke it if it's an Azure path or AWS path or something. I won't be showing you any details about this today because there's actually not time, but these are fantastic tools. Next is planning and collaboration. So GitHub has work items called issues, and we can work with boards and projects there. I'm going to show you this in a few seconds. We can even create issue templates. So if we have something that we want more information than just text, we can create an issue with some drop downs and stuff. And yeah, so we can lead the conversation in the right way. We can also work with labels and milestones and other kinds of stuff. So let's just go in and take a look at how it looks. So I actually created a couple of issues here. That's actually what we've been talking about today. So we start with saying hello. It's an intro. I added a label there. Next is talking about DevOps. Yeah, intro as well. And then we have different stuff that I'm going to talk that I've been talking about today. And if we just open one of these, I can write text here, of course, and I can have a flow of information. Now it's just me who've been doing stuff here. So no text from the beginning here, but I changed the label and I signed it to someone, and I can write text in Markdown here. And I can also add labels to here, multiple labels to sort it in different ways. But this is just an issue list. So, it's good. I like working with it. But the nice thing is when we add it to a project, as I've done here. So there's an old way of working with projects, and there's a new way of working with projects. And of course, I want to show you the new way because I think that is cool as well. So let's just open this project I've called Reactor Demo. And here I have two different views here. I have actually one backlog, and here I can actually, just like any backlog, I can drag and drop stuff. And I can assign it to someone directly from here. I can assign it to myself. And I can say what state it has. So to do, in progress, or done in this case. I can add labels, and I can even add fields of my own here. So let's say I want to add a new field called time, maybe, and it's a number. And I can say, okay, this will take, let's say if I have 10 minutes, this will take 5. Something wrong here. Yeah. So this way I can work with the backlog and prioritize my work in the backlog. Next I created is a Kanban board, and yeah, Kanban is, if you see those yellow stickers that you have on a whiteboard and you move them around, and I've done the same thing here. So, okay, the first thing, say hello. Yeah, that's done. We have been talking about DevOps. Yeah, that's done. And so on. So in this way, the team can work in a Kanban style with their work and prioritize the work. And you can create new views if you want to, and you can do, tables or boards. You can add fields, you can group it in different ways and so on. So I like this way of working. Then we have some more nice stuff here as well when it comes to planning. We have something called discussions. And it's not really planning, but you can add stuff here. Let's create a new discussion here. DevOps is right. And we can add something here. What do you something here? And if we want to, we can use mentions, and I can send messages, just send in, let my colleague Matthias get included in this chat. I can also, if I want to, point to other issues, or I could point to pull requests and other stuff to get a really good conversation about this going here. And I can start a discussion here, and then the team being, oh, sorry, I need a category here. So this was maybe Q&A or something. So I can categorize stuff. And if we go back to the discussion here, we could have a thread around this discussion. So my colleagues and I, we can have a discussion about something. And if we want to, we can actually create an issue from this. So if something starts up as a discussion, later on, we can create an issue of it and actually do what we're discussing. So that's the discussion part. And I told you here in the beginning, the code, we can have a README with some markdown here, but there's actually, of course, a wiki here as well. That's also markdown and is stored in a Git repo actually as well. So here we can have our documentation that is might be closely connected to our project. And I just created a sample wiki here, but we can create a page structure here and add sidebars and stuff. So I think that's good as well. And there's also something called GitHub Pages. So if I have markdown in a repository with information, I can actually, I don't have a demo of this, but then I can put a nice template on this and show it as a web page actually with logging in if needed and so on, where I can have my, where I can put my documentation. Next is extensibility. So of course, GitHub has a marketplace and it's really big. It has lots of stuff. So thousands of applications and actions, plenty of webhooks and events, REST APIs and graphical APIs to integrate with. So first is the marketplace, and then we have different ways of integrating to GitHub. And we can just take a brief look at GitHub Marketplace. So what do we want to do? Let's say we want to, if we have something about Slack, for example, we have lots of different apps we can integrate with Slack for different purposes. Some of them might be applications you could use or integrate, or we can also see what we have in actions. So we have a Slack send, for example. So let's say we have a build here that we do, a CI/CD build, and sometime in that build we want to post it to our Slack channel that we have done something, and then you can integrate that in your build. But there's lots of stuff here, and it's easy to, if you have a nice idea, you can publish it yourself here, and yeah, get other people to use it or work together with other people. I won't go in it. I won't go do any details about the API or stuff, but all aspects of GitHub is accessible through the API. So if you need to do other kinds of integrations or automations with other tools, it's not that hard to do that. But I think that's a topic for another session. So that was our end-to-end platform demo for the enterprise. And we have some links here with, I can send them to Erika afterwards, but all the features and the roadmap of what's coming in GitHub. And we also have a blog where GitHub does publish lots of interesting articles. We have a couple of learning paths as well, and I know that if Erika hasn't sent it out already, she will do afterwards. So we can go through some learning paths to learn the basics of GitHub. So we have introduction to GitHub here, and we have introduction to GitHub products. Both of them are good. Up next week, it's actually Matthias doing a presentation about continuous delivery with CI/CD, and I know that his sample is going to be from GitHub using GitHub Actions. But let's go to questions. I guess some of the questions are answered already. Erika, do we have any questions to answer that are not answered already? Let's see, I can go through here.
I don't know if that question has been answered yet. Matthias can answer. Matthias, have you answered that question?
Yeah, I had some issues posting the links as you saw. So
yes.
Yeah, it's the fifth from the bottom where it's a reference to the action workflow syntax for GitHub Actions. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. I think then we're all caught up for now. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions? Feel free to ask them.
I think no, I think you can carry on, and then we just save the questions at the end.
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
are actually at the end now, so
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I thought you were just taking a break in between. Yeah, in between your session. Okay, then. Well, thank you. There is a question.
Yeah. So how to integrate GitHub to Jenkins for Git webhooks? I'm not a Jenkins specialist, but there should be a task in Jenkins or an add-in that you can connect to GitHub, and as part of that, you should be able to set if you want continuous integration or not using the webhooks that way.
Thank you.
And Lisa had a question. I was wondering if the wiki is available default. You might, Lisa, have to go into settings. I can probably show you there that and take, let's go here. So we have settings here to the right. And it could be that we need to, yeah, I think it's turned on by default, but if it's not, if you go to settings and just turn on wikis, here you can do that. So you should take a look at it again and see if you can find it there. And it should be available in your personal space as well. Sam's question next, how much of this is by subscription? I think all the things I've shown you today is free, as least for open source projects. So, but if you want to go use Codespaces, I don't think it's available yet in the free plans. It's only available for enterprises. So that's an enterprise thing. But apart from that, I think we have most of it for free. A dumb technical question, but how did you bring up the code editor? You just use the word point. Yeah, dot. So point, punkt in Swedish, dot. So just click on the dot button when you have the repo opened. I mean, it's hard to show me pressing a button, but let's go here again, the repo. So I'm here in the repo, just clicking the dot button like this, dot. And it's open this way. So there are no dumb questions, so just ask them. So next question, what's the cost of a subscription for an individual contributor? If you're an individual and do open source projects, it doesn't cost you anything. How do you do the same in Azure DevOps? Yes, if we talk about dot, yeah, you can actually do the same thing. So if you are in your code repo, I'll show you that. Let's go to my Solidify demo environment instead. So I had a Reactor demo from last week. And I go into repos here. And I have my repos open here. And I just click the button dot. And same thing happens here. We go into a lightweight Visual Studio code editor. I got some message here. And then we are in here and can do our basic editing stuff. So, do we have any free trial for Codespace? Yes, if you have Codespace activated and then you have some free minutes to use Codespaces. I don't know exactly how many. That can depend what kind of subscription you have or if you have a free plan. Yeah, I can't tell you that exactly, but there is. Okay, next, how can I get a trail? Yeah, but if you are an open source developer with access to Codespaces, then you'll have a couple of free minutes. If you're an organization using GitHub Enterprise or something, then you also have 3 minutes, and then you can add your credit card or billing or something to get more. So who to use deploy key in GitHub repo setting? What's the purpose? So if you mean like secrets in your code that you can use on your build, if that is the thing, then we can go into just settings here. Yeah, deploy keys. Okay, that's the one. Okay, now I understand. So deploy keys is a special key used for when you do deploys, being used in a single repository. The deploy key gives a specific build or release access to just that repository when it does CI/CD stuff. So next we have Copilot. Is going to be called part of Codespaces? Yes, I think so. It will probably, I think it's already working in Codespaces. If it's not there, my guess it will be there pretty soon. Next question from Alan. Codespaces will cost? Yeah, it will for some. I mean, when you get access to Codespaces, you'll have some free minutes, just like actions and everything else. But if you use it a lot, you'll pay for it. Yes. So the approval and gates, some like Azure DevOps or any limitations? Yes, a little bit limitations. Approvals are a little bit newer in GitHub, so we don't have all the approvals that we have in Azure DevOps. We have the manual approver and one more, I think. Let's just check it out. Going to environments. Just add a new environment. Here we have required reviewers that someone has to say okay for the environment, and we have a wait timer. So those are the two rules we have so far. We can also add environment secrets, but I guess more will be added later on. So what was the next question? There was next one was Azure DevOps is also free with limitations. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, the AB stuff, the dot stuff from AB. Yeah, I like that as well. I just learned it a couple of months ago, and I thought, why didn't I know about this before? So what are the benefits of GitHub Pro for development teams? You get some more stuff. I don't know the exact details, but I think you get more stuff when it comes to pull requesting. You get some more minutes when you do stuff. So I think if you are working in a small open source project, you're probably fine with what you have for free. But if you want to work a little more professionally, I think you should consider taking a look at what is provided with GitHub Professional for Teams. Yeah, and I think Erika or Matthias adding a pricing comparison feature there, link regards pricing. That's perfect. There you can see what actually differs between the different products.
Yeah, and I think now we are caught up on the questions. I hope I didn't miss anybody's questions. If I did, I'm sorry. Please copy paste it again to the bottom of the chat. So yeah, when it comes to live streaming, there is always a couple of minutes. You know, people are watching it. Maybe they join a minute later. They are 1 or 2 minutes behind. So it's a bit hard always to really follow on the dot. Yeah, I don't know if you guys have any more questions. Ask them now. Otherwise, are you going to be back, Magnus?
Yeah, I'll be back next. I'll be back actually helping Matthias next week as he's doing the CI/CD presentation. So I'll be in the back, probably helping answering questions.
Yes, great.
so I don't have any more sessions this first series, but I know, Rika, that you're already thinking about stuff coming in March. I guess we might have some stuff coming up there.
Exactly. Let's actually just go into the next slide. Yes, so today we are at GitHub Intro Codespaces, and next week we have Matthias there. Next week we have Matthias here doing CI/CD. Is that correct? Right? Yes, that is. That should
Yeah,
be.
that'd be great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
We'll
Yes,
dive into
likewise.
some of the things that Magnus talked about today, and yeah. So
And this
see you
is how
next
we
week.
work. We build up the
Mm.
skill. We build up the skill. So we go from very, very low code or no code, maybe even. And slowly but surely, we'll build up your skills. And then by the summer, when we wrap up the collection series, you will be able to use DevOps and AI and the cloud native within Azure like a pro. So yeah, next week we will have Matthias here, and then we are going to have Stefani Vemo doing infrastructure as code, and then we are going to be doing testings and monitorings as well. So yeah, I think there is no more questions for now. So yeah, guys, any bicep coming up? I think Stefan's infrastructure as code that he's a bicep guy, right?
I guess I haven't seen his presentation, but I guess he could be talking about bicep. That would fit in
Yeah.
right in there.
Yeah, he's a bicep guy. So I am pretty sure on the 10th of February we are going to be seeing some bicep as well. So yeah, guys, make sure you sign up for your in your regional meetup groups for the upcoming sessions, and I hope to see you back next Thursday. And for today, guys, thank you very much for being here, helping us out, and yeah, I see you next week.
Thanks
Have
for
a
joining.
nice, yeah, have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Bye.